today. I think is Wednesday, 4 p.m. BST. Welcome back to the show, Zach Franklin. We also have my good friend Clive Morton. We'll get into this in a moment. What we want to talk about today is going back to the whole events thing. We've just changed the date for Seller Sessions Live. So Seller Sessions Live is now taking place on October the 3rd. We want to talk about all the things in and around COVID, stuff like insurance. Clive has worked and still works at a massive level in terms of conferences and working with some of the biggest in the game. So it gives us great context for the conversation. So without further ado, Clive, do you want to give the audience a little bit of background on yourself?
Yeah, Danny, I've known you some years. Came out of the music industry similar to yourself. And I've organised some large music industry events. Came out of that in the crash 2008, and sitting on my hands thinking, what the crap am I going to do? And I think we were having lots of conversations at that time, Danny, as well. Yeah. And came across, had an idea for through my family, actually, my wife, through Lego. I had this idea for a Lego exhibition, and started throwing the idea around, and we launched this show at the O2. It outgrew the O2 very, very quickly. I think we did something like 13,000 tickets in a week. Yep. And we moved it to Excel. We ended up doing 49,000 people. And we then launched a show in Birmingham at the NEC. And we currently have about 71 shows all over the world. We did an IPO December 2017. And I kind of became a non-exec director of the company. I now, for my sins, still love the medium of magazines and print and paper, and I have the license for the official Formula One magazine. So we have the worldwide rights for that. We're just about to launch in Italy with an Italian version. We could have picked a better time in the last probably 100 years to launch a consumer magazine, but we're getting through this strange time. But yeah, that's me.
Yep, no, that makes total sense. And just to backpedal a little bit, we met at an event that we were launching a studio which had like a skate park and everything. I remember you coming to the opening party. It was a mutual.
Wembley.
Yeah, it was over in Wembley. So this had a recording studio. It had a skate park. It had like a green screen. So it was like an all-encompassing 360 model. And we met there through a mutual friend of ours who works at one of the major labels, Sony BMG. And I remember going back to, like before you hit Lego, this is the thing with the entrepreneurial thing, is before you hit Lego, we worked on some projects together because I'd done the PPC at the O2 events that you were doing, like it was like an Etsy but at tremendous scale.
That was a
remember. So you had 250 or so people exhibit. What's the word for it? Exhibiting. Yeah. So then I think through the 3 days you had like 30,000 people through the doors or whatever it was over those days. But then you kind of cracked it with Lego. So obviously you done the license, you went worldwide with it and everything else. So we'll get into these bits and pieces in a minute. We'll just bring Zach in. Obviously, he's a friend of the show, but please, Zach, introduce yourself as well.
Yeah, it's always hard to introduce myself because I'm kind of a Zach of all trades. I've done a lot of different things over the last couple of years. I worked with some of the biggest Amazon sellers in the world out in Shenzhen, China. I do software for Amazon sellers. I do pretty much anything you can do related to e-commerce. I run 4 different dropshipping sites right now and all kinds of stuff. So fun to be back on here.
Cool. And what I brought you back for, one, obviously you're speaking at Seller Sessions Live. So let me just set the tone for Seller Sessions Live. All right. So we launched it last year, and then we pre-sold some of the tickets leading up to this one. In January, we sold out completely, which is a rarity in the industry for an event to sell out that far in advance. So the original date was May 9th. Yeah. And then we moved the May 9th to July 25th, and now we're moving to the 3rd of October. So for people that are unaware, the current lineup as it stands is just bring up the speaker lineup on now is myself, Athena Severi's co-host. Brandon Young is also flying in, and he's doing a workshop and also speaking at the event. Zach, yourself as a speaker. Dan Ashburn is speaking. Liran Hirschkorn is flying in. Destiny Wishon is flying in. Dr. Yev Marasenko is a speaker and flying in as well. We've got Nadine Chappelle coming in. She's a speaker. Paul Harvey returns. My partner, Dr. Ellis Whitehead, will be one of the panelists. Evelyn Demirov will be a panelist, and he will be doing his own workshop. And then you've got Roscoe Hill coming in as a panelist. Janella, who's a friend of the show, she's returning as well, be on the panel. Lazar Zepanik is going to be on the panel. And we're going to do a fireside chat with John Hefter from Thrasio. So the whole thing about the event is, and it's always been, is like, how can we put on the biggest and best lineup in the UK where possible, or bar none? Like, try and set the bar. And then we try that each and every time. Obviously, it's made it difficult to what we want to achieve here. We've also planned in a boat party. So we had the boat party booked in, we had 2 conferences, and then there's a series of after parties. But being that we've got to move this now to October the 3rd, we can't do the boat party because it's going to be too cold. So we're looking at moving to other venues. But the way my mind works is, look, we're in the middle of COVID-19. There's things to consider, what the government said, what the laws say, and the people's safety. But I think that people are sick to the back teeth of being at home. And at some point, there'll be a spring back. We don't know when, but it's going towards that way. And so we've basically moved the dates as well. For you, Zach, who's not in China, where are you in at the moment?
I'm in Bangkok right now. Yeah.
You're in Bangkok, right? So you, as soon as COVID hit, I mean, you went to Bangkok and you couldn't get into your apartment because you're in China.
Absolutely. Immediately, I walked out to get coffee. I went to McDonald's one day. Everyone was wearing masks in McDonald's. This was like middle of January. And I said, fuck this, I'm out. I literally just went on my phone right there, bought a ticket to Phuket, packed a backpack, left that same day, which happened to be like the Chinese like Christmas Eve. Getting to Hong Kong airport that day was absolutely a mess. But I made it. Came to Thailand and said, hey, I like it, got an apartment, and now I'm here. So it's been good. Your
screen is freezing, so I'm going to pop you out the feed and bring you back in, Zach.
All right.
There you go. Right, so you're back in the game. So so the next stage is like, you got to think of safety, you got to think of everything else. And what I said the other day, and as crazy as it sounds, and I'm nowhere near in these leagues or anything else, but my mindset is like, if Dana White goes and gets an island and finds a way forward to do that, they've got the money to do that. I'm not talking about in that league. And then Eddie Hearn does it for boxing by doing the Matching headquarters. What they're doing is investing to try and find ways to move the ball forward, because at some point someone's got to do it. And as long as loads of different entrepreneurs are trying different ideas and keeping safety paramount front of mind, then that's going to bring a step forward. And I think with Amazon sellers spend all of their life, or most of them, are in a room. And they love going to conferences, the ones that do want to go out and meet, because it's something that they get excited about and look forward to and have some human contact, because we can be getting Microsoft Teams, right? Sitting in our room day after day, week after week. And with COVID hit, it's even worse. So I think with this in mind, we've got to find ways forward, all of us as a community. How do we get back into live arena, and what do we need to do that? So bringing in Clive here, like, you work with Informa, which is the largest, or one of the largest conference businesses in the world. At that top level, what are you seeing in terms of the return after, as long as there's not a second wave, what are you seeing, and what's going on boardroom level, and not their discussions, but their mindset behind it all?
I think, I mean, the exhibition industry has been trying for a while now. In the last 2 or 3 weeks, there's big industry where they were the first industry actually talking to the government when this lockdown came 10 weeks ago. And I think they've seen the way that people mix, and the way they're going to speak, whether this 2 meter rule narrows down to 1 meter, whether it carries on as 2 meters. But people are going to have to get out there, and you can't meet a new client on a Zoom call. It just doesn't work like that. People need, everyone's been going on saying the whole world of work is going to change, and people will be working from home, and they've gotten Zoom. Maybe if you're in an industry that probably could have done that a while back, like banking, maybe, you could work from home. You don't need to be sat in Canary Wharf in a gazillion-pound office. But I think the way that people need to meet people is in a meeting, and I think there'll be people dying to get back into the office in the fullness of time to meet people, interact and talk. And I think the quicker that the industry and Informa and people like that can get back to make people into exhibitions where it's a safe environment, I think it's going to be soon. And I think by the end of July, beginning of August, I think you're going to see, as long as there's not another lockdown.
It's the second wave, yeah.
I'm not a scientist. I'm not an expert on this, but as you see as we see this kind of wave pushing down, and as Boris says, that people are starting to want to, the virus. Majority of people that are passing away in the UK, which is dreadfully sad, are all over 75. They've got to keep this contagion rate down. But I think with a big event, if it's done well and the spacing is done that you're not all on top of each other, I think it's going to start. There's going to be start to having events come August and July.
And I think people are going to queue in the background to do this. They're constantly preparing and moving their plans, aren't they, and adjusting along with the timeline. And suddenly you're going to drop, and people are going to go, right, okay, clear run. That's kind of.
I think the live music industry is going to be the last to come back. I think people going to a concert in a hot, sweaty environment, whatever the band, but going to a live concert where. I think that's probably October, November time at the earliest, if it can survive that long. And I do fear for some of these big venues and stuff like that. But I think the conference industry, as long as it's done and people are feeling safe, and the audience want to wear face masks and there's plenty of hand sanitizer around, I think it's no different from going to a shop. I mean, I might be
exactly going to doing shopping
on that, but I feel happier and probably safer going to walking around an exhibition hall. As long as you have to shake people's hands, I think we'll be fine.
Let me say some hi's to the people in the feed. Yalka Billy's here. Tiffany Hepburn is here. Says good morning, mates. Chris Parr is on the line. David is here. Augustus is here. Qasim is here. Says hello, guys. Oxy's joined us. Liz Fick is here. Owen Burrows says hi to everyone. Steve's here. Hessing here. Dang O'Connell is here as well. Let's quickly bring you in as well now, Zach. Like, obviously you understand a lot what's going on with China. You're fully integrated, and there are conferences back running. There are meetups back running in China as it speaks, as we speak. So do you want to speak on a little bit on that?
Yeah, so I'm here in Thailand right now, and exhibitions after 5 more days are going to be able to run. You will be able to go to expo halls. You'll be able to go to exhibitions and conferences and stuff like that. China, because they were able to act incredibly fast and contain things pretty quickly, they didn't reach this kind of epidemic level of spread like in a lot of other countries. And everything is pretty much back to normal. I see videos of a lot of people walking around without face masks. There are like small scale trainings going on, and people are preparing to bring back the larger trainings, although maybe not like the 3,000 plus person Amazon events that were happening, be like 500 people or something like that. There's a lot of smaller VIP gatherings happening right now, and things are still moving along. And I think, like what you were saying earlier, I think one of the best parts about coronavirus is just how much people have been adapting, how much people have not been saying, let's just sit still and wait for stuff. People have been doing absolutely incredible jobs just adapting to what can feel like insurmountable obstacles. Overnight, it feels like every single business was able to switch to delivery model. Everyone was able to add thermal cameras and hand sanitizer and all that stuff. Everyone was able to have like the check-in apps and stuff in Thailand. Just the speed at which people have been able to adapt is something that I'm continually just blown away by. And that's what I have to say on this.
Yeah, no worries.
Zach, interesting. Informa had their first show that launched on Tuesday in Chengdu, which was a Chinese beauty expo. and that happened. I think that happened on. I think it launched on Tuesday. I think it was yesterday. So Informa to launch, and it was a busy show. I mean, and it's in the beauty industry, which is kind of people getting close to each other. You know, it's kind of a. So it's an interesting that Informa have taken that leap of faith into China to get. Yeah, that's a big market for China, like seriously big market for them. It's promising to see that that's starting. And if you look at some of the venues in the UK, like Excel and Olympia, they're starting to get back on their feet.
Well, wasn't Excel at some point used for the additional beds and stuff? Because I can't remember the terminology. They operation something where they had 3 morgues in there, and then they had Nightingale.
Yeah.
So is that shut down now, Nightingale?
I think I don't know if it's shut down, but I think they've mothballed it. I think you'll find that I think the government needed to, I hate to say it, but they needed to scare the people. They needed to make sure that everybody was locking down, apart from Dominic Cummings, obviously, but they wanted to make sure that everybody was locked down. And I think that was partly a show of this is how bad it could be. And I think they needed to build that, because if they hadn't, and it was as bad, the government, they'd have been under pressure to not provide a field hospital like that. I think at the maximum, it only ever had about 50, 60 people, and the NHS luckily was never, well, at the moment wasn't overcome with cases. But I think that it was a show of, I mean, all the contractors that worked on there, which was GES, putting up the shell scheme, and there was some military people there. And a friend of mine from Excel said the military didn't need to be here. They were seen sawing wood, and that was it. But they weren't actually building the thing. It was just a show of the military here. Everybody watch what we're doing and keep inside and keep out of the way and stay at home. And luckily, I think it worked, and it's done very well. And everybody stayed indoors, and we're getting over it. I think people. It's like the schools staying out still. It's a difficult one, because the schools going back would let people get back to work. So if the schools went back, parents could go back to work, and that's been the tricky one. I'm not sure the politics going on there of why the schools aren't going to be opening now, and especially primary schools. But I think as an event, if it's done well and people feel safe that they want to go, and the subject matter is compelling enough for them to go, I think you've got a winner, Danny. I think you just need to sort of promote how safe it is to go at that event, and you're off. You know. Yeah.
I mean, I've got some notes here which I'll go through, which I was making at the weekend, which is part of the plan. Like, it's almost like we've got to put together 2 events, the COVID event and the non-COVID event, and somewhere in between they blend. So to bring in Cybees here, says, do you think strict regulation and restrictions on air travel will be a stumbling block to get into events? Of course they will be, and each country has an issue. One of the major reasons why we moved it is because we're bringing in so many international speakers, especially from the US. That 14-day quarantine, like normally the way this works is that speakers will fly in, they'll spend 2 or 3 days with you, you take care of them, hotels, accommodation, all those kind of things, and then they fly back out. But no one wants to get stuck on a 14-day lockdown. So ultimately, by moving this, is one option. The other thing I thought about is, as we get close to the time, and then you're always running your cash flow, because like when you're booking hotels and stuff, you don't have to pay until 24 hours before, but obviously there's the cost with flights and things. What I was looking at is maybe, and I haven't done the numbers on this, so I won't be held to it, is to look at building a stage set. Right, so it's really good, like inside of the venue, build a stage set with all the screens like you get at conferences, and get the speakers to come on the screens as a worst case scenario. It's a backup option if they can't fly. Does that make sense? And then with inside of the building, like we've been talking about a social distancing of 1 meter instead of 2. Now, it was mooted through our government that if you go on underground transport, is that they're talking about wearing some sort of cloth, not even a mask over the face, once you're traveling on the London Underground, etc., and have a 1 meter distance. Now, let's just say you put that into the context of a venue. Let's just say that in the venue, you've got a 1 meter distance. That's a bit closer to be around people. You provide them masks. You provide hand sanitation. All the food that is delivered is like sprayed down boxes. So as they come in, there's perspex protecting them as they're coming in. They come in and they take their food and they can self-spray down. Just working out all these different trimmings of what is required. One of the advantages that we have is that Seller Sessions Live is held at a university. So if the universities are going back, they're going to look at the safety precautions of bringing people in and out of that building all of the time. So we're looking at, okay, let's look at, there's no COVID restrictions in October. There is COVID restrictions in October, and then there's all the red tape. Now, the other thing you've got to look at as well is that right now, there is no insurance for COVID. So that's another stumbling block that you have to deal with. So what do we do? I'm going to speak to my legal guy and say, okay, what can we do? Is there a release form that can people legally do to turn up based on their own judgment, or you give them a refund? Does that make sense? He's trying to constantly work with this ebb and flow of seeing what can work. What will do you think the Informer will do? Like, you're talking major scale, I'm talking 160, you're talking sometimes upwards of 6,000, from 1,000 to 6,000, Clive, right? Depending on the venue. What are you going to do do you think they would do in this situation that I've mentioned?
I think they, I mean, Informer, employ some of the world's best creative thinkers in event spaces that are going, and as a billion pound company, more than that, it's £3 or £4 billion company. I think they when this all hit, the panic was that the companies, everyone's like doom and gloom on what's going to be going on. Seller Sessions, your Seller Sessions Live is 4 months away, and all I say was, already, things are starting to open. I mean, part of Brick Live, the Lego company we have, we put installations into zoos, which is a bizarre thing, but it brings in, we have these full-size Lego statues of giraffes and elephants and stuff like that. And of course, the zoo is big. It's important because it brings people to that shopping mall. It brings people because they want to see an experiential thing going on around the other part of the zoo. And of course, today, share prices, my share prices jumped through the roof this morning because it was announced that zoos are going to open. So it's like fantastic. This is a major part of the business is opening up. I think that as venues, if we don't start, it's like you saying about people flying. Yes, I'm pretty sure that people by October, there'll be some way. The quarantine can't last forever in the UK. That's even the Home Office admitted by their own fruition that they couldn't police everybody coming into the UK on a flight and track and trace where they're going to be at any one time for 14 days. It's impossible. And I think that's probably, once again, something they'll have in place for a month to 6 weeks. And then I think this is damaging the economy too much. There's a point of how long do you lock the people down before there's social unrest? And there's a point of, it doesn't help with people like government advisors going out and doing their traveling, because everyone goes, well, I'll go and line the beach then. And, I was down the south coast with my accountant last week, and he lives literally on the beach on the south coast, just south of Southampton. And there must have been 2,000 people on the beach, and that was a Tuesday. And you think, if they're in the fresh air, they're not jumping all over each other. What is no big deal in a way. And I think that's the world has got to carry on now. We've got to get back to some normality in events. I think if you were going to if you were thinking to yourself, I might go to a trade show that I went to probably 3 or 4 years ago, maybe, Confex or a custom motorcycle show, and it's not 100. I don't need to go to that event. You'd go, no, I'll give it a miss this year. I'll go next.
Yeah.
With your subject matter, you've got a compelling reason for people to want to go to that, because it's hugely beneficial to that person, that company, or that individual to go to that event, because they're going to hear stuff and speakers flying in from America or seeing stuff they can't get normally. I think you're well aware. The insurance thing, I wouldn't be too paranoid about that.
I'm not paranoid. I was just explaining there isn't, like, you might as well wipe your ass on it.
Put a bet on William Hill. I think you've got more chance of getting I think even if you were insured for COVID in your insurance policy and it was COVID-18, they'd say, well, no, it's not 19, we're not paying up.
Yeah,
which I have,
exactly.
people who even could insure against pandemics weren't insured. So it's like, what's the point? I don't think you can. I don't really think there's anything worth getting stressed about that. And people signing a document, what are you signing, Dan? You're signing them to not catch COVID in your venue. If the place is well cleaned and they're given every opportunity and every mask and every a free hand sanitizer and a free branded face mask, I'd feel safer probably your event I would going into
I mean, that's the thing. It comes back to the point, like safety comes first. That's paramount before you forget. But we need to break through that brick wall of some kind. Yeah, like, because you can wait for it and it may never come, or you can try and plan for it. And if October the 3rd don't go forward, say la vie, then it doesn't go. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'd rather keep planning because I want to push out of this in a safe environment. But people have to go first. We have to do it, whether it's little old me or the big companies, What's Cy saying here? He's saying, for the world has changed beyond recognition in 4 months, it could change a lot more in the next 4 months. For our sanity, Seller Sessions has got to happen in October. I mean, I think everyone agrees that regardless of Seller Sessions, any kind of communication that we can do in person needs to happen, whether that's your local public house, whether that's a restaurant. It needs to happen somewhere and somehow, doesn't it? And like going back to what you said, I think the biggest problem people are going to face in the entertainment industry is with social distancing, you have to stand a meter apart. Let's just say that's your space, right? If everyone in the building, if your capacity is 400, but you can only take in 200, then your margins disappear, because your margins may be in. Do you see what I mean? This is where the live event thing becomes really problematic but we still need to nurture that. People need entertainment, people need relief and stuff. So we can't suddenly get rid of the music industry or get away with these pleasures. We need to have those in our life. We can't just work hard and not have anything at the end of it. And I think everyone's coming round to the fact, like, we need to be super, super, super careful and safe. But equally, everyone's going to go crackers unless we get out the doors and start integrating with humans again,
I think it would be a great time for sellers to start small-scale meetups in their own cities if they're close at all to any, nexus of sellers. Post in the groups, find people around you. Internet business is always a people business, and for Amazon sellers, it's really, really important to keep meeting people in person that are doing what you're doing, so that you really don't go crazy and you learn a lot. So try and make this happen for yourself. Invite sellers over to your house for a drink or something. Find ways to kind of keep this spirit going without maybe some of the big conferences while we all wait for Seller Sessions Live.
Tiffany says, you've made a good point here. Look, this has happened to restaurants in the US. They opened at limited capacity, but that does not cover their overhead. This is true. The worst business in the world is to run a restaurant, because the margins are not there. And the success rate are really, really low. So if you've got reduced capacity, it's actually pointless of possibly opening. In the UK, pre-COVID, do you realise that public houses, there was 3 shutting down per day across the UK. So we don't know what is going to open once they do. We're looking at, I think, either July 4th or 15th. They're talking about non-essential pubs, restaurants and places will open. The big chains are putting stuff in place. Trying to think of their name now, but there's a massive chain. There's a YouTube video. They're showing perspex screens and pane portals and the social distancing within inside of these pubs. But like they said, because they're a big change, they can absorb that. But your small little country pubs, like what I've got at the end of my road, that they've all been furloughed and shut. There's no way of doing that social distancing there, because basically you'll get 4 people in there. And so you can't really open on that premise. So we need to kind of break through this. I mean, for you, Clive, these bigger, like these mass events, is a lot easier to do that as long as there's a support in terms of sponsorship and people taking out stands. You can afford to have less footfall through the building, can't you?
Yeah, with any event, there's a different model really that applies to everything. You can go for Yeah, it depends on the industry that you're in. If you were doing a motorcycle show, some industries are particularly bothered by what brands they see. So if you're a consumer shows by nature are always the trickiest things to pull off, because people expect to see, say, example of this motorcycle show, you want to go to a motorcycle show and see Ducati, Honda, Yamaha, Harley Davidson. And if you go there and one of those brands is missing, then you'd go, you get, I paid my 25 quid and I parked my car, or I took the train, and it's £100 day out, and I got there and the brand I wanted to see wasn't there. And you can either be angry with the brand, or you could be angry with the organizer, because you were almost like cajoled into going to an event where you thought all these brands are going to be there and all these companies are going to be there, and they weren't. And of course that's a different set of agendas than if you went to a conference where there's something you desperately want to find out about, and by going to that, it's going to make you more money. Simple as that. And B2B shows, if you know that you're going to go to, there's something you want to go there. When I there's a publishing event I wanted to go to and it's been canned. I'm desperate to see when it's going to be rearranged, because albeit with all you guys, Danny, of the digital world of how you sell things, I still produce a physical print and paper magazine. And there's actually a renaissance since lockdown's been in of people picking up magazine. Sales have gone through the roof because people have thought, I'm fed up of books, I'm fed up of my Kindle, I'm fed up of my iPad looking at a magazine. People don't absorb things they don't read a magazine like they would on an iPad, like they do when they can physically see and read that magazine over and over again. So we've seen a resurgence in people buying old school print and paper magazines, but it's been sold in a different way. We now sell a single copy and we sell a subscription. Obviously subscription's got a lot more markup on it, but a single copy, we literally, if you order it today, it can be out in the post tomorrow to you. And that's, we've seen we've probably done 50K's worth of single copy sales in the last 6 weeks on one magazine, and we've never seen that before. It's taken the place of going to WH Smith's, because they've all been closed. Well, they haven't all been closed, bar 200 of them in the UK, but people are buying a magazine in a different way. So we're looking now to produce a really nice kind of hard cover for it, so it's almost like an unboxing when you get this magazine every month, instead of it just being in a plastic bag or so there's more of a presentation of how you receive that title. But people have gone, their buying powers, they're wanting good information. They're fed up of reading fake news. They're fed up of reading throwaway news and throwaway comments. Hence why Huffington and Buzz and all this crowd are laying off staff. Like if you look at the Press Gazette, they're laying off thousands of journalists because people aren't engaging with that anymore. They're going different routes. They want proper good journalism and good information that's delivered.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So Zach, what can you foresee over the next 6 months in terms of like events? You like me, you attend a lot of events, and what can you see in terms of the networking part? See, this is difficult. Does everyone touch elbows?
I mean, I'm taking things day by day. I'm not even trying to look at what's going on a week out. I look at America. I was supposed to go back to America, visit, for the first time in a long time this year. Shit's crazy. I'm not going back. I don't want to end up there right now. It's an absolute mess right now, but I think it's good that there are people stepping up and saying, hey, let's try it. Let's put something together and let's make things work. But I think like the things that you guys should do is focus on making meetups in your community and keeping this in-person thing strong so that we all remember how to talk to a human being in a couple of months. I used to do meetups in Shenzhen. A lot of people don't know. I used to do digital marketing meetups. I had Facebook fly in from Singapore. I had Indiegogo fly in from America. Get like 200, 300 people about once a month and have a great time. I had never thrown meetups before or anything like that, and I said, hey, I'm going to do it, and it was great. I love doing it. It's something that for anyone listening to this, you guys had the same level of experience and knowledge that I did about throwing events when I started doing it. So try and keep community going, because a lot of you guys are saying, hey, why are Chinese sellers so strong? And it's because they constantly meet up with each other. There are constantly events. There is a very strong sense of community, both online and offline. And I've been hoping and dreaming for years that in the West that we could approach something like that level of organization and community. But I never see it happen. We're spread out very much. You look at the population density of America and you look at the density of sellers. The only place it really makes sense is like LA, Chicago, and New York. But whoever it is, Carlos, I think, in Florida.
In Miami,
yeah, kind of random place for meetups. Really successful down there. There are probably more Amazon sellers around you than you think. So that's my solution right now. Start small, and I'm really excited for all of these events to open up. They're some of the best ROI that I've ever had in terms of just a single conversation at some of these conferences. Like at Affiliate World, I had one conversation turned into, a multi-million-dollar business from that. Just one conversation. Tons of other tricks. And when I was first starting out with anything, I barely thought internet marketing was real. I wanted to try it. And then I ended up at a lunch at my first conference where the guy across from me is making $30,000 a day with affiliate marketing. The guy over is running the political campaign of one of the, high up senators and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, this shit is real. And if I didn't go to a conference, I would have never had that experience. So I think if people are new, if people are kind of getting into Amazon, you need to go to stuff like this. This is going to be the difference between an okay seller and a successful seller. And if you're already a successful seller, this is going to give you that affirmation that what you're doing is the correct thing. You're going to be able to feel understood by other people that are having your same issues and your same experiences. And that's key. Even if you don't learn anything new, which, you will, but if you go to a conference and you just feel like you're around people that understand what you're doing, maybe a lot of us in our daily life, we don't have a lot of people we can talk to about optimizing PPC that are going to care for more than 3 seconds. And that's one of the things that's really good about conferences. So I think that these play a huge critical role in keeping Amazon sellers motivated, sharing the newest tactics. And you're going to get a lot of stuff just from, a conversation over a beer or something that you're not going to get anywhere else on the internet. And you need to go.
That's why this strikes me. This is what drives me about live, because I've just done the Branded by Women Summit, which is fantastic. But there's a lot of summits now appearing, and people are going to get tired of the constant flow of summits because there's no live events. And for me, the best business is done is with a beer, 2 a.m. in that nightclub where you make a lifetime acquaintance, friend, or a business partner. You can't. Party peer. And I think that's where bonds are made, and that's why the experience is what you're paying for as well. It's not just the education, it's not just the speakers coming in, it's all the after parties that we put together. It's the burgers and stuff that we have, or me, a vegan burger, at 6 a.m. in VQ's, which is a 24-hour bar restaurant, after a big night of partying and having fun and sharing stories. That, to me, epitomizes part of the whole thing, where we try to bring it, like me and Clive, I've tried to bring the music industry to the Amazon community and mix the two together. So we work hard by day with the content and the speakers, and party hard by evening, and marry those two worlds together. So you've got the sensible and the carnage, and I think it makes for a great experience, because you think a lot of events where people would leave the corporate world to then go to an event and then put a bloody suit on right? And eating cheese and pineapples on sticks. It's just like, what the fuck? Why would you want to go to events like that? Let's keep it real. Do you know what I mean? Like at Seller Sessions Live, we ban suits. You're not allowed to wear a suit because I want everyone to be. Yeah, I know you like to wear a suit from time to time, but you can't. You're not wearing a suit to Seller Sessions Live. I think people need to express themselves, you know, and the whole point of running your own business is that you don't dance to someone's tune. You don't have to put on that suit and everything else. Does that make sense? So it all comes down to, for me, it's about creating a great experience. Clive, what other things, before we shoot, what other experiences can you see that be introduced over the next 6 to 8 months through Informa, if you don't mind sharing some ideas?
I'd love to know what Informa were doing. I have to say, I haven't spoken to them for quite a while. But with us, we are a bit like you, judging public opinion. I've got an event that's planned for Wembley Stadium, which is, funny enough, a music kind of similar to what you're doing, and it's the end of November, and I kind of think it will still be good to take place. It's like a conference for the drums and percussion, funny enough. Luckily for us, Formula One is starting to race again in August, so the races means the sponsors will start freeing up budgets, and they'll start to sort of think about that, you know, they'll start supporting magazines again. But I think the world's got to get going, Dan. We've got to start working. We can't live. We're living on Zoom is not a good.
It's not viable.
It's not viable, and it's not healthy, really. People are going to get out there and sort of set the world alight again. But within as long as they're sensible and they know what, you know, they wash their hands and they keep a mask on if they want to. Before they find a vaccine for this, and if they find a vaccine for this, you know, then it will be, we'll go back to normal again. But until that happens, but somebody told me, I heard on the news the other day that there's allegedly something like 13,000 different COVID viruses that have been discovered. 13,000. So this could come back in a more virulent form in another 2 or 3 years' time, and you know, we're worse than we are now. But there's just probably the new world order will be that, you know, we probably have been too lax on washing our hands and keeping sanitized sort of venues, and unfortunately it's different people have been picked on by this virus is picked on different parts of society that in a horrible way. And I think you've got to be careful. You can't be too gung-ho, but I think that as long as you've taken the relevant steps with Seller Sessions Live, I think come October, I think you'll see that the world will be back on its feet, especially in the UK.
Yeah. 1 second. There we go. Cool. Yeah. So just a few more things here in terms of who's in the feed. Jamie said, "Love it, gents. We're band suits. Lol gold, Danny." Tiffany says, "You're all making me hungry. Let's have burgers and chicken wings." Yeah, I think we've got to get out there, haven't we? We've got to get out and have some fun. So, best way that they can reach you, Zach, as we sign off.
Email me at zach@amz30.com. Make sure to leave an introduction about who you are, what's your business, and what are you looking for if you connect with me. I get a lot of people that just say like hi and stuff like that, or don't send me a message at all if they add me on Facebook or if they add me somewhere else. If you do not send me an introduction, that's it. Okay, so other than that, happy to talk about anything Amazon related, stuff like this. Just make sure I know who you are and that you saw this podcast if you reach out.
Cool. And Clive, I know probably not so much related to the Amazon industry, but if anyone's interested, picking your brain on things like an event, you know, we're open community. I'm sure there's people that will listen to the podcast.
Yeah. I mean, you get hold of me. My email's clive1664@me.com. Probably after the beer, but clive1664@me.com. Any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Yeah.
Cool. Guys, I'll be back here again tomorrow at 4 p.m. BST. Thank you, gents, for joining us today. It's been a great conversation. I think it's important to keep having these open conversations for all events, because it'd just be nice to get back to seeing people, being in the same room as people. With it's almost like a luxury now, which it is, right? So, but at some point, hopefully we can get back to that day where we're all in the same room together and having some fun. So I'll see you later, guys. Stay home, stay safe. Much love. Take care. See you tomorrow.